Big old world today, people. I'm going to bring you the latest and greatest like I always do. And today, we're going to talk about Carus Chemical, 1500 8th Street, LaSalle, Illinois. We're going to specifically be talking about the site investigation reports for the Muddies and the Apollo warehouse, as we know as the Tier 2 chemical storage facility. The northern property of Carus Chemical / M&H Superfund site. Site location, Phase 3, northern undeveloped area, is located approximately 3,500 feet north of Carus Chemical manufacturing facility. This area is partially owned by Carus Chemical and is located directly north of the Apollo warehouse, formerly referred to as Apollo Metalworks. The Phase 3 area is located in the southeast quarter of LaSalle. The Phase 3 area consists a depression basin or lower land area, approximately 15 acres, which has been historically referred to as the Muddies here in LaSalle, Illinois, people. The surrounding upland area, which consists of the Illinois Central and Gulf Railroad, ICG, embankment to the east of the lowland area, and formerly Sweeney Gasoline and Oil Company to the west of the lowland area, and the upland area between ICG Railroad embankment and the Little Vermilion River north of the Apollo warehouse. The Apollo warehouse, people, is located behind our homes off of Porter Avenue and Zinc Street. It's been used as a Tier 2 chemical storage facility for many years without the residents knowing about it. Just a little background. The Little Vermilion River embankment. Also included in investigations were sections of the Little Vermilion Bank, both up gradient and down gradient of the overflow discharge pipe. The overflow discharge pipe is a component of the surface water control system installed by Carus Chemical. The river sediments were investigated to evaluate the potential impacts to the river sediments of gradient and down gradient of the upflow overflow discharge pipe. The surface water control system is designated to collect spring water or the surface water which accumulates in the lower end area during periods of heavy precipitation. During heavy precipitation, typically the system pumps the collected water to the holding pond in the Phase 2 area for discharge into the Little Vermilion, though a National Pollution Discharge Elimination System NDES permit discharge point if the system's capacity is overloaded. The excess water is discharged from the lowland area, referred to as a lagoon in the NDS permit, directly into the Little Vermilion via overflow pipe. Surface water quality in the holding pond is routinely monitored under this permit. People, what they are saying is they collect runoff water from this contaminated site. They pump it over to Carus Chemical's sediment pond and then discharge into the Little Vermilion River. The Apollo Metalworks went on strike in 1936 and was consequently closed. Between 1936 and 1970, there were no known industrial discharges into the lowland. The building and surrounding property were conveyed, how conveniently, to Carus Chemical in July of 1941. Open Court, formerly a division of Carus Corporation, used the building to store and ship books from approximately 1967 to the 1980s. Sometime before 1960, and for an unknown period of time, a portion of the building was occupied by Illinois Valley Container. Since approximately the mid-1980s, Carus Chemical has used the building as a warehouse for bulk storage of processed chemical products and has improved property by installing surface water control as described in Section 2 and bulldozing an access road to the drainage pipe for maintenance. Wow, that's pretty interesting, people. That's all they had to do, and that they've been running this place for a long time. 1980s is what they're claiming, and I'm sure it was long before that too. Between 1970 and 1975, Carus Chemical piped wastewater generated during ore purification and hydroquin production from the nearby Carus Chemical Company to the lowland area. In 1969, the Sanitary Water Board of the state of Illinois issued a permit number 1969 EB 592 to Carus Chemical Company. This permit approved the use of large depressions located north of the Apollo warehouse, the lowland area, or the Muddies as we know it, as a disposal site for industrial waste products, with effluent discharges to the Little Vermilion River, Carus, 1969. The ore purification waste consisted mostly of soft black mineral known as pyroslite, insoluble barium magnesium compounds from that. Oh, you fucker. Oh, that's good. Impurities in the ore. Trace amounts of mercury and arsenic, which were impurities in the original ore, may have also been present in the water discharge into the lowland area. Wastewater generated during this production, hydroquin, a reducing agent used primarily in photographic process, consistent mostly of magnesium oxides associated with the manufacturing of hydroquin. We do have Sanborn maps, people, dated 1926, 1949, and 1960. I will tell you, in 1949, there was no exhaust handler. 1960, they put in a dust collection system in this building for some reason. But we obtained and reviewed Phase 3. The maps show Apollo Warehouse and Sweeney Oil Gas Company under development portion of Phase 3 and is included in the Sanborn maps. Basically, this is just telling you what's going to happen between 1949 and 1960. Maps show that Apollo Metalworks building being used as a stock warehouse by Carus Chemical. Stock warehouse. I can guarantee you it was stocked with chemicals. By 1949, in addition to the original building, and also a dust collector had been constructed. Why would you need a dust collector inside of this building, people, unless you're doing something with chemicals and you don't want the dust on your employees? Ask yourself that question. Apollo Metalworks. That's what they're claiming. Choo choo choo, people. 1981. I'm going to tell you about this picture. This is magenta. They got the LaSalle and Bureau County Railroad, which was owned by Carus Chemical, M&H. It was conveyed to them, and they had, I think, 3 of these trains, these cabooses. The eastern portion of the lowland area west of the railroad was conveyed to Carus Chemical in July of 1981. Well, there you go, people. I miraculously found this picture somewhere. The remainder of the lowland area, now owned by Carus Corporation, was deeded over by the LaSalle and Bureau County Railroad in December 1981. How convenient that both railroads owned by Carus, M&H, M&H, portions of this one is M&H, get deeded over, conveyed. Prior to that time, it was owned by the railroad. Railroad back in the mid-1800s, February 1970, lease agreement was signed by Carus Chemical, the LaSalle County, Bureau County Railroad Company, and allowed M&H to allow lowland area depression to be used by Carus as sludge disposal for the disposal of industrial waste. Now, if you didn't own it, why would they let you put that waste on their property? It doesn't make sense to me. They and lease it to them, you know, not sell it to them. We're going to lease it. We'll give it back to you later. The lease also allowed for M&H to dispose of its industrial waste products at the disposal site facilities on the leased property, provided that such individual waste products are in free-flowing slurry form, people. Grab that by your cattails. And how convenient, I conveyeth this property to you for freeeth. So here we go again. We're going to give you some more land, Carus Chemical, the former Sweeney Oil and Gas Company. And I'm going to tell you why I think this gas company was brought here. We changed times. We quit burning coal. We started using gas. They started using this as their main source of fuel. So why not have it on their property? It makes sense to me. How about you? This was northwest of the Apollo Metal Works building, also known as the Apollo Tier 2 Chemical Storage Facility to us here in LaSalle. It appears that the railroad company owned the property while Sweeney Oil and Gas Company was in operation. In March of 1892, the property was conveyed to LaSalle and Bureau County Railroad by Jabels and Hannah Lee. No other records indicating transfer of ownership were found until conveyance of the eastern corner of the property to Carus Chemical Corporation, December 1981, by the LaSalle County Bureau County Railroad. The remainder property was conveyed by the LaSalle County Railroad in March of 1990. The lease date, July 1979, to the LaSalle, City of LaSalle by the LaSalle County Railroad, was also discovered and reportedly disposal for construction debris. So not only did they contribute to the waste, the City of LaSalle also contributed to the waste. I conveyeth to you even more, though we have nothing to do with each other. The Apollo Metal Works, the small partial properties surrounding the building, were conveyed by M&H to the Apollo Metal Works sometime before July 1923. In July 1923, property east of the Apollo Metal Works property was conveyed by M&H to Apollo Metal Works. Other records indicate that this property was necessary for an addition to the building, which was constructed in the mid to late 1920s on the Apollo building. In July 1941, the property was conveyed to Carus Chemical by Apollo Metal Works. Very weird. So M&H conveyed property from them to Apollo Metal Works, give it to them, they give it to Carus. Turtle Corporation documents indicate the ICG Railroad right-of-way owned by IC Railroad in the mid-1800s was also conveyed via quick deed, but no date is referenced. As I said, they owned, M&H owned this railroad. I tell no lies, people. Here we go. Investigation of the diverted waste. I want you guys to pay close attention to this. This says all solids, liquids generated during the investigation were contained in 55-gallon drums labeled and stored on site. Based on the results presented within the report, no off-site disposal is necessary. Otherwise, directed by the Illinois EPA, all investigation diverted waste will be spread on site. What do they mean with 55-gallon drums labeled and stored on site? On site, where are people? Hazardous waste labeled, stored on site. We need to read that again, people. We need to read this again. All soils and liquids generated during this investigation were contained in 55-gallon drums labeled and stored on site. Now what they're talking about is when they bore the holes for the wells. They have 19 well holes out here to test the groundwater. And all the things that come back out of that ground is contaminated. So their liquids were contained and labeled and stored on site. Where on site? We don't know. We don't know. I guarantee you, they're going to truck it out in the next 3 weeks. So you took the waste, labeled it as hazardous. You put it in 55-gallon drums and stored it where on site? Where on site, people? Where do you think they would store that on site? On a Superfund site. Not out inside. I bet it is in the Apollo building. Tier 2 chemical storage. Bet that's why they need 3 weeks to remove things. Now, I'm not very friggin' smart, but I'm not very fucking dumb neither. And if you need 3 weeks to move some parts out of a building after you already took 14 semi-loads of chemicals out of there, something's wrong. Something's going on. I'm glad you're taking that shit, though. Don't get me wrong. Something's weird about it. Cleanup criteria. It's a tier 1 groundwater, soil. They've already got this, people. The concentration, contaminants, baseline contaminant cleanup objectives. They already have these. These are from the boreholes. And they put them in tiers. Site access. I want you to pay close attention to this one. To the phase 3 area, which is restricted and the property is not in use, with the exception of an occasional Carus Chemical employee visiting the Apollo warehouse or an unauthorized trespasser. For this reason, analytic results obtained during this investigation have been evaluated using the industrial commercial property classification, the Tier 1 cleanup criteria providing screening criteria for soil ingestion, groundwater ingestion, and inhalation and potential exposure routes. The industrial/commercial properties classified as protective of adults working at the site for more than 40 hours per week. The Tier 1 screening criteria generally represents a target cancer risk of less than 10 for carcinogens and a hazard quotient of less than 1 for non-carcinogens. Right here they're telling you there is a fence, US EPA fence, says keep out. They're telling you, Carus is telling them that they'll have an employee visit that Apollo building once in a blue moon because, you know, there's nothing in it. Nobody checked it until this year, and we still ain't got the facts on that. And for some reason, they shouldn't be using this building for the safety of the people beyond that Superfund fence. Am I right or am I wrong? Facts, people, facts. It says it right here. Site access to phase 3 area is restricted and property is not in use. But Carus Chemical has been using that property for a hell of a long time and making a hell of a lot of money on a US EPA Superfund site. Wrong, people. One potential thing of concern is arsenic. Was identified in the sediment samples collected from the Little Vermilion. Arsenic concentrations ranged from 5.4 to 10.7 milligram per kilogram. The Tier 1 screening criteria is 3 milligram for ingestion pathway. Our groundwater classification, this is just telling you, furthermore, within the upper 10 feet of the parent material, under the fill is also classified as Class 2. Nonetheless, Class 1, Class 3 standards are present in the tables of the reports. The classes, they cover it all. Trust me. A through Z, 1 through 10. Here's where they start getting nervous. 1995. This is a letter. And I won't read the whole thing, but I will leave it up for you for a minute and let you get your little peek on. But you're getting nervous. They're getting too close. Please don't go into the Apollo building. They want to know what you're doing, why we're here, what's going on, and so on. And here we go. Oh shit, they're on to us. What can we do? We can push the blame on someone else like we always do. Roger T. Through Carus, that Carus Chemical had been following a progression of investigations as discussed in a previous meeting and wanted to know why the muddy site was to be on the list. This is for EPA cleanup. Tom C. said that under US EPA cooperative agreement, the site was due for investigation. Roger T. and Mark S. These are all workers of he's an employee, Roger, he's an attorney, asked how their northern property had been discovered. Bob C. said the agency was made aware by citizens. Various PRPs have alleged a dump on site, National Sheet Metal, all these owners, Midnight Dumpers. Roger T. blamed Polhar for dumping some debris on his property, which is a dick move in my book, but hey. So here we go. Roger T. said that various citizens group, Save Our Little Vermilion, have lobbied to get Illinois cement from moving closer and blasting the city apart, insinuating, this is Carus insinuating, that the citizens would use the claim that the muddies is environmentally unstable so that the cement company will stop. So now they're pushing blame on Illinois Cement. Roger T. also said that in the previous meeting, which with the agency agreements were made that the muddies would be done in phase 3. And since Carus was not a Fortune 500 company, funding these environmental projects had to be done over a period of time so as to not create financial problems within the company. Well, so far, Mr. Fortune 500 has done nothing with cleanup. Not one thing. Mr. Fortune 500, I find this to be the biggest joke of the world, in the world. Larry E. interjected. He's an attorney. Due to the time constraints, we'll find out. I think he's EPA. Investigation of the monies will be done in cooperation with Tom's group so that they expedite the process to be in review and comment. They want to hurry up and get it done, so they're not going to let them fucking delay it. Delay. Other dialogue followed that stemmed on Carus Chemical's perturbing delay of submissions due to the following of the proposed House/Senate bills altering environmental regulations and the observation of the similar Depew, New Jersey zinc site. We also talked about changing the agency's priorities, such as delaying the baseline risk assessments in lieu of doing an investigation of the muddies first. Delay. And here we have Roger T. was frustrated and said, why don't the agency go ahead and investigate the muddies on your own? Mark S. rephrased and softened the words of Roger T. Mark S. is the attorney. Here is the people that were there. Carus, the GOC consultants, Roger He wants to know why. And their visit was in Springfield at the EPA headquarters. Maybe crying a little bit more, Roger, will get you some more attention. And it comes to this, people. How many lies, deceit, deception? How much can we take? Because we've about had it. We're at our limit. I'm not going to drag this out, people. Don't let it bring you down. I'm just trying to share the information that I have with you, so you know in the next 3 weeks till July 7th, while they're trucking that nasty shit of whatever they're getting out of that building down the road, who knows where it's going next. But thank God it's leaving my building, and that building is not going to be run. That's a big triumph for us. Big triumph here in LaSalle, Illinois.